Well, to me, it's acknowledgement from Vince that he's got a problem. He's got a competition or competitor walking onto the stage, deep pocket competitor. But if it's been some time since I've watched NXT, but if they bring that, like if they get it back to where it was, and they're offering the product that was at one time not too long ago selling out pretty big arenas. Uh, First of all, you're fighting over a very tiny fan base that has remained watching. I don't think you're going to bring a shitload of fans back to watch NXT versus AEW. So the million and a half viewers that remain watching WWE, you're going to be splicing them up, and much like they did in the original Monday Night Wars, 750,000 will tune over to watch this for so long, and then 500,000 will tune back, and they'll be skipping around. I don't think you're going to see from the Wednesday Night Wars any huge increase in the fan base. But I'll say this: that's my criticism of it. On a positive note, it's giving fans something to talk about, and so those guys like us that have tuned out will listen and hear that, and hopefully some number of them will come back. But I just don't see in the current formulation of either company that's going to appeal on a wide enough basis to bring a large enough number of those fans back. To do that, they've got to give them something that has the flavor of old school wrestling, something like Kenny Omega versus Jericho, Cody versus Dustin. But when you look at that roster, you start to ask yourself, are any of these kids prepared to deliver that? And that's the question I can't answer. I do know this, as I've often talked about on this podcast and in other interviews, breaking bad habits is a very, very difficult, if not impossible thing to do. So a lot of those kids who have come up in the Ring of Honor era and the indie era, where it's just vomit up as many moves as fast as you can do it, and always end up with a kick to the head or a moonsault of some kind or a backflip. That will not bring back that big chunk of audience that needs to be brought back for either company to be successful in a large way.
And it's funny when you really look at it, the Wednesday Night War, and it's going to be NXT Triple H's baby against AEW. But then you keep hearing these rumors and reading on the sheets and things that Vince is going to, be getting his way into NXT, and Vince is going to get more control.
That's right? The shark.
So, do you think that will ruin the positive vibe and the positive feedback of NXT right now if Vince gets his hands on it?
Yes, absolutely. The one thing about NXT, and I think one of the reasons it got hot, was it was, a solely different entity and a very different flavor and texture than WWE and sports entertainment. After Dusty died, we've seen that move back a little closer to the sports entertainment model, but still different enough from Raw or SmackDown. The last thing those fans that have an affinity for NXT want to see is the sports entertainment guy coming in there and dominating the show, because anything Vince puts himself on is going to dominate, right? So it's going to be interesting to sit and watch and see. I wonder if this is much ado about nothing. In other words, if you can't bring some large number of those fans back, is this going to be us fighting over the same 1.5 million viewers, and they tune over this 15 minutes, and the next 15-minute block they tune back? Or will we see, much like we did in the original Monday Night Wars, huge increases in the ratings? And most of those fans were tuning back and forth, and then we had the WCW stooging off the finishes on the tape WWF show them. But there was a pretty large base of fans that were watching WCW, WWF, whether jumping back and forth or not. There was still a very large audience. You're starting off with 1.5 million. Let's give them benefit of the doubt and say 2 million fans on a regular basis. That's vastly below the 52 million that we're watching 25 years ago. And with what they're doing right now, the sports entertainment that we know we're going to get from WWE, if the NXT product and Vince gets involved and pulls that towards sports entertainment, will that do anything to lower that chunk of fans back, and I don't think it will.